Ocean currents and the cod fishery in New England. How circulation patterns shaped history. Created by Colin Baker and Violet Rothplatz. Off the coast of New England and Newfoundland, two major currents converge: the warm Gulf Stream flowing northward and the cold Labrador Current flowing south. Their interactions create a mixing zone where water masses of different temperature and salinity collide. This mixing helps bring deep, nutrient-rich waters upward toward the surface. In areas like the Grand Banks, the meeting of these currents cause upwelling that injects nutrients into sunlit surface layers. Thus, the first key mechanism is mixing between warm and cold currents, which helps set up nutrient supply to the surface ocean. These mixing processes, aided by underwater topography, force cold, nutrient-rich deep water upward in a process known as upwelling. In the Gulf of Maine, for example, banks and ledges help push cold bottom water upward, replenishing nutrients in surface layers. Those nutrients fuel a bloom of phytoplankton, the base of the ocean food web. Small fish and zooplankton feed on the plankton, and large predators, especially cod, feed on those. Thus, the energy from the deep gets passed up through the food chain, creating rich fishing grounds. Cod are cold water fish that prefer well oxygenated, cooler environments. The cold waters brought by the Labrador Current help maintain those conditions, making the region an ideal habitat for cod. Because of the nutrient input and favorable temperatures, cod stocks in these waters become extremely abundant. Historical records describe explorers and fishermen claiming cod were so plentiful they could be scooped up in baskets. This reliable abundance made cod a cornerstone of New England's fishing economy and settlement patterns in colonial times.
A great example of the impacts ocean currents have had on societies and ecosystems is the codfish surplus in the North America region. During the early 1600s and the 18th century, codfish made their most plentiful appearances, fishermen even claiming that the population was so dense they could almost walk on their backs and could be scooped up in baskets. Before the Industrial Revolution, during the mid 19th century period, when fishing took a dramatic turn, decreasing in biomass over the following decades, codfish were an incredibly abundant source of food. In the North Atlantic Ocean region, codfish were considered the most abundant and most commercially important fish. Codfish were so pervasive, they were even considered a primary food source in the North America area. In New England specifically, this made a huge impact. Codfish made a very impressive impact on New England, shaping their identity and economic prosperities. The New England's strong and authentic fisherman aesthetic didn't come from nowhere. The codfish enterprise really sealed this cultural uniqueness. Codfish, proving themselves to be a reliable source for wealth, encouraged an expansion of settlements toward natural harbors and coastal lines. And with the growing fishing industry, more town developments were pursued, such as port cities, as well as other supporting industries for fishing and fish production, like shipbuilding, sailmaking, and salt production, all of which helped subsidize further economic growth. A key factor of New England's success being how the codfish industry helped supply the finance to grow other industries, encouraging and continuing New England's expansion and inland expansions. The independent cod trade was what influenced New England's success, creating a very impressive networking status and exchangings of fish for other goods, and even fostered entrepreneurship for newer, more developed fishing processes. Fishing really nurtures the identity of New England, creating their distinct maritime culture, defining generations of fishermen and lives at sea. Codfish became such an influential gain. They symbolized New England's economic prosperity, wealth, and resourcefulness. Ocean currents have a much higher impact on our economy and Earth systems than we may have ever thought to even consider. One of the most impactful examples being New England's cod fishing industry. However, that is only one of the extreme cases. There are many instances of ocean currents shaping how societies and regions are influenced, including places like beaches. Ocean currents have a direct impact on our Earth and how we live. These complex systems and cycles are very much worth learning about and understanding, especially for the developing cases of these cycles being damaged. This example of cod fishing representing this as well, with the dramatic decline of the codfish biomass. Having knowledge of how these very interesting and very complex systems work would very well benefit us in understanding the earth we live on and call home, and hopefully, in the long run, benefit the development and growth of our earth and how we care for it.